must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
You indeed told me that a jobless Kenyan is a desperate Kenyan. You told me also that a hungry Kenyan is a negative Kenyan. You told me that a sick Kenyan is a weak Kenyan. And you also told us that a homeless Kenyan is a Kenyan without hope. You, the Kenyan people, spoke clearly. We want dignity. We want to put enough food on our tables. And we want a lower cost of living. We listened. Since, and on reflection, I have come up with 4 responses to these concerns, and I call them the big 4. Food security, affordable housing, manufacturing, and affordable health care for all.
That is the position on the big 4. Food security, health, universal health care, housing, affordable housing, manufacturing. Many of the people in the rural areas would like to know how food security is very important, to have food enough for eating and surplus for export, to have enough food to feed families. Many people would like to know what universal health care is. We need to start to talk to people, to tell them, to do documentaries. How is the fishing? What type of fishing can be done on a small 1 acre? We need to go out inside in the villages, get our teams that can come up with all documentaries, weekly, daily, so that fishing can be improved. Fishing can become one of the food. When people talk about food in Africa, Miriam, in Siaya, for example, people think of the maize. That is, but fish is also a food item that must be stored, that must have facilities for.
The 4th element is food security and nutrition. Since independence, we as a people have sought to ensure that our citizens enjoy food security and proper nutrition. And while we have made good progress, the challenge, however, remains yet to be fully conquered. It is time to address once and for all the multiple and interlocking factors that leave too many Kenyans at risk of hunger. Our immediate actions start now. We will bring targeted taxation to bear to put arable land to use. We will continue to encourage and facilitate large-scale commercial agriculture to diversify our staples through irrigation and other technologies. We will protect our water towers. Small-scale farmers will receive better extension services and market access, and subsidies will be redesigned to improve food yields and production quality.
We have said 3 items: obstacles, success, and the challenges. One of the obstacles is when the agenda was set out, there was quite a lot of politics that was involved. So time has come for us to remove politics from it and assure the people, the ordinary people, the ordinary wananchi, citizen of Kenya, that if you have this, you can improve the food security. If you do this, you'll improve the healthcare system. If you do this, if you can plan for a cheaper housing in your local area, a cheaper industry, an industry, a cottage industry. For example, look at what we want people. How many youths can gather themselves into a group in Kayole? 10 youths. If you can be washing people's clothes, ironing them, their shirts, when they come from school, they pay you 300 shillings or 100 shillings, Bob, or 20. And if you are doing that as a small group, this is, you see, a small cottage industry begins there. Then you end up with a huge dry cleaner in Kayole, made by youth. But most of the people in our African context, especially Kenya and Uganda and other places, people are focused on the government getting them the jobs. But there is a job. There is the youth fund where you can go and borrow 50,000 shillings and buy dryer, buy this, buy that. You iron people's clothes. There are so many people who are lazy who want, I'm not condemning them, but they go to work very early in the morning. They don't have time to wash this cloth. But you can say, bring your shirts here. You'll have them in the tomorrow morning. You put in a dryer, iron, another youth is ironing. You earn your living. You create employment for yourselves and for the people surrounding you.
So job creation.
I want you in this spirit to also turn to the person sitting or standing next to you. Greet them and say how proud you are to be Kenyan, and tell them that you are their keeper. Because to be Kenyan, at its core, is about loving your neighbor. With regard to corruption, we will continue to fight. Regardless of what will be said and done, we will fight. And we will fight, and we intend to fight and win. And it is unfortunate that sometimes this is politicized also. But as I said, this is a fight that Kenya must win. Because if we can't create not just a fair environment, but a stable environment, it must also then be transparent. So that once you do your business, you know what you need to do, how you're going to do about it. So your business succeeds not on the basis of who you know, but how you do your business. That should be really what all of us should be focused on. Your business should not succeed or fail based on which government is in power. Right? It should be on the basis of the plans and the programs that you have as business people and what your business plan is. And that should be the basis of rating success. And this will happen. This will happen. It will be difficult. It will be noisy. But it will happen. It will happen. It will happen because there's no going back. And this is an agenda I just want to be very, very, very clear about.
Way back in 1998, the late Secretary General of the United Nations by name Kofi Annan thought of an idea, brought an idea of saying the only way to bring world order where crimes committed that are not punishable in local courts, local countries, regional courts could be taken to an international crimes court. The Rome Statute and Rome Treaty of 1998 July was an offspring of already cooked DSGE intelligence system mechanism to keep Africa under check. Up to date, the French government pays 70% of the salaries of the International Criminal Court, from the porter to the judge, to the prosecutor, and the rest of the other people. This was a project of Kofi Annan and the Kofi Annan Foundation, followed by George Soros as an accomplice of Kofi Annan, brought in by Luis Moreno Campo and the entire system of the West, some countries in the West, to keep check on African countries that did not agree with the policies of the French and to their policies of Western culture. The International Criminal Court Chief Prosecutor Luis Moreno Campo agreed in all this that yes, he has been picking money, extra monies, and we followed the story together with my group in France, powerful investigators in France who worked together with me. And we found out that, truly speaking, Luis Moreno Campo Fernandez Gumedi, the former judge, the president of the International Criminal Court, laundered money, some coming from American banks themselves. This evidence was put in the ICC. In the case of Bashir versus the chief prosecutor, I filed an application which I still have and which I'm going to publicize again so that people can know that I was right. I've been vindicated because the American friends now have found that my credibility is real, that I was right when I stood up to say this court is corrupt. This court launders money, $17 million of United States money, laundered through Bahamas, through New York banks, back to Ocampo's personal assistant, by then called Fernandez Gumedi Silvia, who later on rose to the ranks of becoming the president of International Criminal Court. It has taken us time, energy, effort, resources to investigate the corruption scandal that have rocked the International Criminal Court. Why should African countries continue to be in the ICC? Yet even the superpowers like America are saying no, we have enough courts to try our own people. Viewers, it has taken Americans over 20 years to listen to our voices when we told Rainberger in Nairobi that this court is a corrupt court.
Today, on the eve of September the 11th, I want to deliver a clear and unambiguous message on behalf of the President of the United States. The United States will use any means necessary to protect our citizens and those of our allies from unjust prosecution by this illegitimate court. We will not cooperate with the ICC. We will provide no assistance to the ICC, and we certainly will not join the ICC. We will let the ICC die on its own. After all, for all intents and purposes, the ICC is already dead to us.
A case of the Kenyan people. These cases in Kenya, the chief prosecutor called Fatou Bensouda put serious statements at the end of the cases, discharge and termination. In legal language, these cases pose a very serious threat in the future. What the people of Kenya can do, and they should do, is today to wrap up the work envelope. Because until this envelope is sealed, thrown in the Indian Ocean, the chief prosecutor in the future will come and look for that envelope, use it to incriminate people again. It brings me back to the situation. America is sealing its journey out of the ICC. Why do you wait? Why don't you take this opportunity to seal your journeys out of the ICC? America is quitting, warning that it cannot no longer be a party to such an obnoxious court, a court that has no powers, that talks from this side and vomits from the other side, a court that cuts and pastes evidence, a court that buys witnesses, a court that incites incentives, gives incentives to witnesses of a passport and a relocation, then you tell lies about people. A court that sentences you as per the words there. Why should you leave a country that has a jury that checks on what the judges would do, the excesses of judges, and go to a country, a court that has no jury. Time has come for Africa to think. Do we need this court? Does Africa need this court?
A very good morning to you, and thank you for joining us. It is the 10th of January 2020. The show is Good Morning Africa, and the television station is Punchline Africa TV in conjunction with South Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation, all the way from the southern part of Cameroon or the Ambazonia region. So thank you so much. My name is Miriam Magutu, and we're coming to you from Kenya's capital here in Nairobi. A bright and a sunny morning today. We're enjoying the good weather. Of course, January is here with us. So thank you so much. So Dr. Matanga should be joining me in a short bit, and then when he comes, we can look at President Uhuru's legacy, of course, the obstacles, the challenges, and some of the successes that he's been able to achieve. But before he arrives, perhaps I'll just take us through the news-making headlines here in the leading top 3 local dailies, and then we shall look at what's making headlines across Africa. We have a lot in store for you, and we'll start with Mali, and we see that presidential aid is now being charged over what? I'll tell you. And also in Lesotho, there seems to be a problem. Of course, I'll bring you the latest update. In regards to the Nile River debacle, remember the problem that has been surrounding the building of the new electric dam in the Ethiopian side that Egypt has not been very happy about. So this has been involving 3 countries: Sudan, Egypt, and also Ethiopia. So I'll let you know the latest there. And also in Niger, a new death there has been registered. 25 soldiers were killed, and 60 others are the dead there in Niger. That is the latest attack, of course, by Boko Haram militants there. And also in Kenya, now the Somali-based jihadist group Al-Shabaab has come out and said the attack that they carried out in Manda base there in the coastal town of Lamu there in Kenya, they were actually acting after, Al-Qaeda asked them to do so. So we shall look at that. And also in Malawi, we have some news from Malawi. And in the DRC Congo, there has been a registered number of, deaths from the prisons there. So what's really happening, and also the latest in South Sudan, and the response from one of the vice presidents who was given sanctions, over yesterday, and now he's on Tuesday, and now he's come out to respond to that sanction by the United States. I'll let you know what Mr. Tabandengai is saying. And also we'll go to Nigeria, and now advocates of press and free media there are worried at the current state of, states there in Nigeria, where the government is targeting media and the freedom of speech there in Nigeria. And also we look at the latest update from Libya in regards to the war that is happening there, and as well as Ethiopia, who have passed a gun legislation law there. What would that mean to the security, or what really advised this law to be passed in the Ethiopian parliament? So thank you so much for watching. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in across the world. It is a pleasure to have you today. So, as I said there, Dr. Matanga will be joining me in a short bit, and then we shall look at President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy when he comes, and how far, what has President Uhuru Kenyatta been able to achieve, what is he doing, what is the latest, what is the update in his Big Four agenda. We shall look at that when Dr. Matanga arrives. But now I'd just like us to look at the news making headlines in the Kenyan local newspapers here. And we start with the Daily Nation, where MCAs throw Sonko under the bus. In case you're wondering, this is the Nairobi governor, and leaders drop plans to form an ad hoc committee to oversee the running of the capital in the absence of embattled governor, who has been barred from his office over corruption allegations. And county legislators are now pushing for the revival of the Nairobi Regeneration Committee, which was formed in 2018 by President Uhuru Kenyatta to oversee the delivery of key services in the city. Now, it comprises national and county government leaders. The ward reps say the committee will work along members of the county executive committee there. You know, the wars of Nairobi Governor Mr. Mike Mbuvi Sonko there does not seem to stop, and he should be worried now as his position as the Nairobi governor. Remember, he's facing some charges in court, as it is 38 charges over corruption, misappropriation of funds, and the loss of a lot of money, public money in the Nairobi County. So he's still answering those charges in court, and so he was barred from being active in his office in his capacity as the capital's governor. And so yesterday also, of course, what is making headlines across the world? Yesterday I arrived home and I'm watching these international news channels, and Prince Harry takes a walk from his royalty. I mean, of course, Meghan has not been very well received, especially by the British media, and she's been, going through a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism, and she's not been enjoying her time there since, they started dating. She started dating Prince Harry, and then the engagement, they got married, and now they have a child. And I think in the backdrop of what happened to his mom, Prince Harry, maybe he thought, perhaps I should listen to my wife, or maybe this is a conversation they had, and maybe move at a place where we'll just have a peace of mind. I'll try living a normal life. So this is something that has made headlines, because how do you renounce, your position as a royalty, as a royal? So it's very interesting there. So I see it on the front pages here on the Daily Nation, and they call it Megxit, a shock as Harry, Meghan quit royal duties. And Meghan, from what we know, she is an actress, a celebrity from America there, and the fact that she's half black, really, that was not very much considered. She was, she's not the it when it comes to the standards of the royals, but she broke all the glass ceilings, and love has no boundaries. They ended up getting married, and they seem to be very happy. But she is her own woman, and a very strong woman for that. And she's used to having her own and standing in her own 2 feet. And so I think being in a position that she was after she got married to the royals, that she felt maybe that was not for her. When you look at her and then you look at Kate, Kate is a proper British royal material. She's been groomed, and she just, she fits very well in that role. And anyway, she could be, the husband could be the future king of England, but Harry, of course, stands no chance unless 14 other people die and then him, but as it is, he's not in line for being a king there in England. And so Meghan, being a very strong woman, I think, she's not used to just sitting and getting allowances as the royals do. So she just wants to go out there and continue being herself, make her own money, because they mentioned in that statement on Instagram, I've not read the whole of it, but from what has been circulating in the media, that they want to go and start having their own income and something like that. And that caught the Queen and the rest of the royals with a lot of surprise. Nobody saw that coming. They had expressed that idea, but they were told to just get a hold of it fast because they were working on modalities. At the end of the day, he's still, Harry is still the grandchild of Queen Elizabeth. He needs his security. He needs proper channels. If he's not going to live in England, wherever he will be, he needs to have a proper security and things like that. So they're still working on modalities, and the royals were trying to adjust to this and see how this will be made possible. And so this announcement that they made really caught the palace there off guard. They did not expect that it will be this soon and it will be done in this manner. So there it is, if that is anything that interests you. And so also on the front pages here, our parents from hell lynch a teacher over poor results. And the Teacher Service Commission yesterday withdrew the service of 6 of its employees at Ndooni Primary School in Kitui County following the bizarre killing of a female teacher. The move came barely hours after detectives investigating the killing were allowed to detain 2 suspects for 21 days. Miss Daisy Mbathe Mbaluka was ambushed by an irate mob in a broad daylight as she took her children to school. Now, the mob, which was led by some parents, is alleged to have perpetrated the crime over the school's poor performance in last year's KCPE examinations there, and also something that I know Kenyans are now wondering what will really happen. The NHIF releases new tough rules on health services. If you are a voluntary contributor, don't even think of defaulting. So that is the story is on page 9. And the new rules that the National Hospital Insurance Fund, remember last year, it is one of the leading scandals that rocked this country. A lot of money the Kenyans remit to get this, services, health services, but was... The case is still in our courts, and so the new rules that they've introduced, and a lot of Kenyans have been complaining about this because you remit all this monthly money, and yet sometimes when you go to seek the medical attention and the prescription, the drugs that you're given if you're holding that card is the lowest quality possibly, and they don't cover for a variety of illnesses should you seek to use it. So Kenyans have been complaining about this because they remit the money, but when they go to get these services and the hospitals perhaps they would want to visit, they're limited, and so Kenyans have not been having a good time with this, but let's see how that will work out. And also, on the front pages, congratulations to Malkia Strikers. This is the national volleyball team of women here in Kenya, led by Captain Mercy Moim, posed with a drama celebration. This is after beating Nigeria to secure African Soul ticket. This is the photo, the caption of this photo here on the Daily Nation. So they did very well, and so they're the only African team that will represent Africa, of course, in the 2020 Tokyo Olympic Games at the Daposi Arena in Yaoundé. They beat, last night. They did that. They beat Nigeria to get that ticket. Of course, they beat Cameroon before that, and the drama is regarded as a talisman of good luck in traditional Japanese. So because they were the winners, of course, the country that will be hosting these Olympic Games, that is Japan, I think was there, and the winner, which was the Kenyan team, they're called Malkia Strikers, and Malkia is a Swahili word for queen. All right, so those are the Kenyan queens. They are doing us very proud, and congratulations to our national volleyball team for making it to the Tokyo Olympic Games that will be happening this year later on in Japan. All right, so that is in the front pages of the Daily Nation, and we look at from the Standard, from billionaires to beggars, the tragic fall of Karume's empire. That is on page 11. I think I mentioned it yesterday. It was in one of the newspapers. So if you want to know this story of a self-made, billionaire, when he died, I think he was one of the wealthy people in this country, and he started by just selling charcoal, but later on, he became a very wealthy person, and he was a politician by the time of his death. But the wealth that he left for his family, they've been fighting over it, and now apparently it has been squandered. So it's very interesting there. So from billionaires to beggars, the tragic fall of Karume's empire. So if you want to know more about this story, go to page 11 of the Standard newspaper. Also on the front pages of the Standard newspaper, Race Against Time, and they put here the photos of our first president, Mr. Jomo Kenyatta, and then Raila's father there, Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, and former President Mwai Kibaki, and Raila's face. So they're saying his father, Jaramogi, came very close to ascending to the presidency. Jomo did at the age of 72, and Kibaki did at the age of 71. Raila just turned 75. Is his best dance yet to come? So that is a question they're trying to see, because Raila, he has not come out very outrightly to say that he shall be contending for the presidency come 2022. But if you can see all the signs, of course, you can see that he has some interest, and he will be he has not come out to say outright that he will, because he said his partnership with President Uhuru Kenyatta today is for the betterment of this country and has nothing to do with any political alignment. He's doing what's best, he thinks, for Kenyans, and for him coming and working together with President Uhuru Kenyatta has nothing to do with advancing his ambition or for his intention to be running for the presidency of this country come 2022. Of course, that is the political lingo, but if you look at the things and the way they are, and that really, his coming together with President Uhuru Kenyatta really exposed already a rift that had existed in the Jubilee Party, and a lot of people in that party became very, very uncomfortable. And that is the time we saw a lot of from the inner circle of President Uhuru Kenyatta turning against him. And now we see outrightly people coming out and castigating even the people who are, supporters of President Uhuru Kenyatta for his first election and for his second-term re-election. They're now coming out and telling us, the president has done this. He's not like what Alice Wahome came out and said the other day. And I was watching something. I think it was a short a news item at one of the local TV stations, and they were looking at the sentiments of this Kandara member of parliament today, and what she was saying like 2-3 years ago in support of President Uhuru Kenyatta, but now about turn. I think after President Uhuru Kenyatta went and shook hand with Raila Odinga, they said, "Oh no, you went and brought this traitor here. So now you're going to support, of course, DP William Ruto, who has been very uncomfortable with the presence of Raila Odinga. He's saying in government, but Raila Odinga has come out and said he's not in government. He's still the opposition. He's just working. He's just have a working understanding with the president." And specifically on the BBI, the Building of Bridges initiative that serves a greater goal that is beyond the two of them. So it has been a back and forth. But fine, as I said, Raila Odinga himself has not come out and said, I will be running for the presidency come 2022. But all signs, when you see some people very close to him speak, you can say maybe perhaps he's not retired, because he's not come out and said he's retired. He's still very much active. But of course, right now, maybe he has toned down a little bit because he has a new role in the AU as the infrastructure special ambassador, envoy for infrastructure there at the African Union. So that has made him a bit busy and has perhaps taking him off from the local politics. But we see him every now and then. He pops up and he makes sentiments and he makes this, headlines every now and then that sometimes do not augur well with especially Deputy Ruto's, camp, the politicians allied to him, because they think, as they have been saying, that, he could be the person pushing for President Uhuru Kenyatta to extend his term. You remember the headlines yesterday and the other day which, we've not even, the BBI is not even final. We have not have a referendum to create that prime ministership, position. So that is something that is yet to be done. We are waiting to see the final draft or the final copy of that BBI after it has passed through this, a committee of experts to just fine-tune it and bring it to Kenya. So it's up to us, Kenya. If we decide we don't want this BBI, we will not vote for it. If we decide whatever that is there is something that would want changed, that would want included in our constitution, then we shall vote for it. So it's up to us as Kenyans. So these politicians should give us a break. If they bring it to the people decide this is what we want, that's it. If the people decide, no, we do not want, we love our constitution the way it is, or those articles you're trying to change, we just want them the way they are, then I think at the end of the day, it's up to Kenyans on what they really want, especially when it comes to the changing of the constitution. So this prime ministership, conversation about President Uhuru Kenyatta wanting to become a prime minister after his term ends, I mean, it's very premature because Kenyans have not decided yet if they even want that prime minister. This is something that was proposed in the BBI report, but Kenyans have not decided if this is what they want, because it has to be brought to us. We'll take a vote on that, because if you have to change the structure of parliament like that, that is something that shall require a referendum. So it has to be brought to us for us to decide, is this something that we want? And then after we have made that decision, so now people can start talking about these positions. But as it is right now, I think it's premature. And this is politics as usual. So anyway, so if you want to know about this race against time, that as they say it here on the front pages of the Standard newspaper, you go to page 2 and 3 and look for it online there, because people have been using the conversation about Raila's age, like, no, he's old, we need to leave it to the young turks, and we left it to the young turks, President Uhuru Kenyatta, and his vice president, Mr. William Ruto, Dr. William Ruto, which they're quite younger compared to Raila, but because the age factor, now they're saying here, but that the first president of Kenya first became president at the age of 72, and even the third president of Kenya, Mr. Mwai Kibaki, became president at the age of 71. So they're just asking, Raila Odinga just turned 75 years old. Was it on Tuesday? Is it the best time? Is he still has the energy? Can he still be the president of this country regardless of his age? So I think also that it's up to Kenyans to decide if they want to be led with him or not. I think that is Kenyans' decision, because in our constitution we do not have the age cap, that you're denied an opportunity to be a leader. We don't have the maximum age. We just have the minimum age. If you want to run for a presidency in this country, then you have to be 35 years and above. If you want to run as a member of parliament, or an MCA, a local, for the municipal council legislators, then you have to be from 18 years and above, if I'm not wrong. And so that is just that is where the age comes in. Then after that, you can be wherever you want to be, as long as you meet the minimum age limit there. So there is another story on the Star newspapers, headlines here called Uhuru back Musalia Mudavadi. ANC leader says he will soon hit the ground running for 2022. Mudavadi has always been a factor. We remember that time when there were rumors or an agreement that had been made that before President Uhuru Kenyatta said he was going to run, that they were going to support him. And then that very famous statement that President Uhuru Kenyatta came out refuting these claims, some very particular words he used that were quite amusing. But we see that, and so now, according to the Star newspapers, they're wondering, could President Uhuru Kenyatta back Musalia Mudavadi for elections in 2022? If you want to know more about that story, you can look at page 4 and 5 of the Star newspaper. Go online, you'll find it. And still on the front pages there, Malkia Strikers book ticket to Tokyo Olympics. So the story that I looked at on the Daily Nation, still here, it's on the front pages. So Malkia, meaning the Queens, it's a national volleyball team here in Kenya for the ladies, and they've made it as the African team that will be representing Africa in the Tokyo Olympics. And here the caption says, Noel Morambi celebrates with teammates after Malkia beats Nigeria 3-0 in their final match in Yaoundé, Cameroon. And before that, they had beat the host country to go to the final. So again, congratulations to our national volleyball team there, the women volleyball team. And we see a cop arrest his wife, later found dead in police cell. This is a story that I was listening to, I think, was it last week? And apparently, whose Shinda Gatwiri, whose mysterious death is under police inquest, agonized through the night as a piece of cloth tightened around her neck in Ruaraka police cell. A post-mortem has shown Gatwiri, 38, was booked into Ruaraka police cell on December 26th for burglary and stealing, but she was found dead 2 days later. The report office personnel visited the cells in the morning on December 28th and found her dead. And what is really interesting about this story is the husband is the one who reported that she had stolen from him, I think, a phone and something else. I think they were having a very bad relationship. We don't know the background of it, but the backdrop of the story. But if you can go to page 2 or look for it online, I think you'll find the whole story there. And so the husband also is a cop, and he works in the same police station. So there are, claims that he could have been the one who murdered the wife while in police custody. So a very sad story there happening. And so that is just on the front pages of the Star newspaper. And so if you want to know more, you can just go online and check them out and get to know what is really happening in Kenya if you're interested. So as I said earlier, Dr. Matsanga will be joining me in a short bit, and then we shall be looking at, President Uhuru Kenyatta's, legacy, what he's doing, what he has not done, what he needs to do, what he needs to improve on, and everything that has to do with the Big Four agenda. And when Dr. Matsanga joins me in a bit, and we'll also look at other news making headlines and some other stories that have gone through there. I think when he comes here, he'll help us in expounding and understanding really beyond the headlines what's really happening in some of these stories. He'll explain to us, and we'll have that conversation. But for now, thank you so much for joining Nyaliu Dak Adobe. Thank you so much. And you're saying congratulations to Kenya all the way. Indeed, thank you so much. Victor Emeka Ekewacha, you're saying good morning, Punchline Africa TV. You're watching from... Where is that? As a Buddha, you're saying good morning and good morning to you. So now I'd just like us to go straight to what is making headlines across Africa. And we shall start with Mali, where a former spokesperson for Malian President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta has been charged for posting explosive-laden tweets on the president's account, the AFP news agency has reported. The tweets had condemned U.S. President Donald Trump for ordering the killing of Iranian commander Qasem Soleimani. Teguma Maiga admitted to authoring the tweets and issued an apology on his Twitter account. Now, he said that tweets which had since been deleted were meant for his personal account and that he had forgotten he still had access to president's account. Now, on Thursday, he was charged and placed in detention for internet fraud and harmful data entry. AFP quoted his lawyer, Musa Maiga, as saying. Interesting there. All right. And then we move to Lesotho, where the governing ABC party in Lesotho has asked Prime Minister Thomas Tambane to resign over allegations that he was involved in the murder of his estranged wife 2 years ago. The claims are made by Lesotho's Police Commissioner Holomo Molibeli in court documents this week. The Prime Minister has not responded to the accusations. He suspended the commissioner in what the ABC's deputy leader Nkosi Mahao described as an attempt to defeat the ends of justice. Lepolelo Tambane was shot dead while traveling home with a friend days before her husband was sworn in. What? Okay. We shall talk about it in a short bit. And we go and the latest about the Nile River round and a major meeting on the future of Africa's biggest hydroelectric dam currently being built on the River Nile has ended without agreement in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa. This is the fourth time a meeting in the latest efforts by water ministers from Ethiopia, Egypt, and Sudan to find a solution to the tensions over the project. Now, Ethiopia began constructing the mega dam in 2011, but it has been met with resistance from downstream countries, especially Egypt, which relies on the Nile for 90% of its water needs. Now, on completion, the Grand Renaissance Dam is expected to generate more than 6,000 megawatts of electric power for Ethiopia, where currently 65% of its population is not connected to the grid. The major sticking point is how quickly the dam should be filled. Ethiopia wants to fill as fast as possible as it plans to start generating power by the end of this year. Egypt insists the pace should be slower to prevent a water shortage. And we go to Niger, where the army in Niger says a military camp was attacked by suspected Islamist militants, killing at least 25 soldiers and more than 60 assailants. This attack comes just days ahead of a summit in France with West African leaders to assess military operations in the Sahel region. The attack took place on an army outpost in western Niger, just a few kilometers from the border with Mali. Very close to where 71 soldiers were killed just a month ago in an attack later claimed by the Islamic State group affiliate in the region. And the latest from the Kenya attack that happened earlier on Sunday, and Somalia-based jihadist group Al-Shabaab now says its attack on a Kenyan naval base used by the United States forces was carried out with guidance from the head of Al-Qaeda. Its spokesman, Sheikh Ali Mohammed Rage, made the comments in a 20-minute audio message released Wednesday by Al-Shabaab's media arm. Al-Shabaab's affiliation to Al-Qaeda is well documented, but the statement is a reminder of its influence and presence in East Africa through Somalia militant group. Since the turn of the year, Al-Shabaab has attacked a military base, a bus, and a school in Kenya, killing at least 10 people, including 3 U.S. military personnel. And we move to Malawi, where a protest against the alleged rape and sexual assault of women by police officers has turned violent in Malawi against the organizers' pleas. Tens of thousands of protesters took the streets of the capital, Lilongwe, to demand the arrest and prosecution of police officers named in an official report by the Malawian Human Rights Commission as having raped and sexually assaulted women in Sundwe, a town 35 kilometers west of Lilongwe. Now, angry protesters reportedly threw stones at police officers, buildings, and passing cars, smashing windscreens. Small shops owned by foreign nationals, especially Burundians, were also targeted. Come on now, if you're going to protest against an injustice that is absolutely not right, police officers are, sexually assaulting women, and this is something that was reported, especially during the protests that were happening after, the elections that took place on the 21st of May there, and President Peter Mutharika was re-elected. So there was a lot of protest because the elections, as the opposition were claiming and other stakeholders, that were marred with a lot of malpractices, and so there were a lot of protests to against the official presidential results, especially. So they are within their rights, because these things happened. Women were raped, and a lot of bad things happened during that time. But now, if you are going to protest against an injustice, and you're out there and you're trying to bring attention to something that's quite serious, and rightfully so, you should be out there. If things like this are happening, then we have to make the world know. If the government is doing enough, then we have to protest and let them know, this is something that has happened, and we require for these people to be held accountable. But you're out there protesting, and this is what I think it could have been a problem. And then over an injustice. So you're out there protesting over an injustice that happened, something very wrong. But at the same time, you're making other people, innocent people, to suffer over something that they have nothing to do with it. This is not the way to protest. And this is something that is very synonymous with a lot of protests in Africa. And I think the only protest that was really nice that was carried out proper still is that one of Algeria and that happened in Sudan. Even in Sudan, they were protesting for months on end, and it was very peaceful until the rapid police force, remember the Janjaweed, went and attacked the protesters and then killed several of them, and that is when it turned chaotic. But before then, months on end, they've been protesting very peacefully. Even in Algeria, they've done it, and that is why it has been very effective. You can see the protest in Algeria has been effective. The protest in Sudan also were very effective. But I think the government now and the new leadership there, I think, might be taking things a little bit too far. Yesterday we were talking and looking at now the administration now. Under the new Prime Minister, Mr. Hamdok, they're closing down on the newspapers, television stations, and radio stations that seems to have been receiving a lot of support from former President, Omar al-Bashir. It's like somebody coming here and closing down, I don't know which station, because even in Kenya here, some media houses sometimes are very compromised. They're affiliated to a certain politician. So if you were to come in and then you decide, because you seem to be, affiliated to this and this person, or so I'll close you down. That is not right. We see it's a practice all over the world. Look at the United States and Fox News. The way, if you're gonna sit there and speak bad about President Trump, you're not it. Nobody. And this is a national television. So. Two wrongs don't make a right. So this move by the Sudan leadership now closing down these media houses that are affiliated to former President Omar al-Bashir, I don't know if it's the right move, because it is the same, freedom that was that you're denied, that you're denying these people. Perhaps they will see the light and perhaps start doing things the right way. And of course, in the atmosphere and they were operating in at that time, maybe they did not have much choice, because when the government, Mr. Omar al-Bashir, led with a very iron fist there, and everything is said, passed, and there was no democracy. You could not protest. You could not. So perhaps they just bowed down to pressure, and they were in business and they wanted to make money. I mean, they should consider the atmosphere under which they were operating at that time. So for them to now go and close down, I don't know if that they're solving anything, or they just they're doing the same things that Omar al-Bashir used to do against them, and now they're the ones perpetrating that. So I don't know, it just beats the whole thing, because in a democracy like the one they're really yearning to have now in Sudan, you have to give room for, all kinds of opinions and voices, whether you agree or not, but create an atmosphere, create a place where people can operate, as long as they're not infringing on anybody's else's right. That is where I normally have a problem. If you are now infringing on my right, like these people are doing in Malawi, it loses the essence of the reason why they were even protesting. They're protesting against something very serious, and as I said, they should have done it, and they're doing it. It's okay. Over the rapes and sexual assaults that women went through during the protests that Malawians were having after the re-election of President Peter Mutharika, and apparently some of these rapes were being done by policemen. So. They are within their rights to go out and protest. And of course, this is after an official report by the Malawian Human Rights Commission that really reported and noted some of these things that happened. So now, where I have a problem is I'm driving to go wherever I'm going, or I've just opened up my shop, I'm running my small business somewhere, and now you're coming in and you're attacking the police, you're attacking buildings, you're attacking passing cars, you're smashing windscreens, small shops owned by foreign nationals. Now you're now being even xenophobic. And in particularly, they were targeting Burundian shops. These are people who have suffered from their own country. Remember what is happening now in Burundi. Burundi is another, problematic state here in the East Africa and the larger African continent. So these are people who ran away from their countries. They came and sought for abode in your country. And now they're just trying to make ends meet, and they've started small businesses. And they're just trying to work hard and be productive members in that society, and also help build their economy. And you're going to attack them for something that has nothing to do with them. That is not right. And Malawians, that is where they miss the point. That is not right. Because now if you're targeting other foreigners, now that becomes something completely different. And what took you out to the streets, as much as it's very important, you lose the whole thing. You lose the point. And that is not okay. Anyway, I was reading the news. So let me just, before I start analyzing this, before I get too much into it, let's just finish up with the rest, another 4 or 5 countries remaining. And we go to the Democratic Republic of Congo, where at least 17 prisoners have died in the past week in the DRC's main prison, the Bill Clinton Foundation for Peace has said. The organization, which has no affiliation to the foundation set up by former U.S. President Bill Clinton, has said the cause was a lack of food and medicine. Malaka prison in the capital Kinshasa, which houses more than 8,000 inmates, has received no food supplies for the last 2 months, Congolese officials say. So inmates have to rely on their families to bring food. For the past 2 months, inmates have not been fed in a prison in the DRC. Now, the prison is severely overcrowded. It has 5 times the number of prisons it was built for. And this is a conversation that we must have. Just let me finish up with the rest of the news making headlines across other countries in Africa. And now we go to South Sudan. And South Sudan's first vice president says he has been wrongfully linked to violations of human rights cited by the U.S. Department of Treasury to sanction him. In a statement on Thursday, Taban Deng Gai said that the move to impose sanctions on him could disrupt his efforts towards contributing to the implementation of the revitalized peace deal. On Wednesday, the U.S. imposed sanctions on Mr. Gai and for his involvement in serious violations of human rights, including the disappearance and deaths of civilians. And then we head to Nigeria, where advocates of press freedom in Nigeria are accusing the government of blacklisting The Punch, a leading national newspaper. In December, the paper criticized President Muhammadu Buhari for allegedly defying the rule of law and illegally detaining citizens. Supporters of the government argue that the allegations are vague and lack proof. The Punch editorial strongly condemned Buhari's alleged refusal to obey the rule of law and the detention of citizens who have been granted bail, which is the truth, and we report here every day. Now, the newspaper was lauded by many citizens for its bold standing on the issue, and the government was strongly criticized on Twitter for omitting The Punch in its New Year's advertorial. And then we go to Libya, and Italian Premier Giuseppe Conte on Wednesday held talks with Libya's General Khalifa Haftar. This is a part of diplomatic efforts to cease fire in the North African nation. The meeting came a day after Italy urged the EU to ramp up efforts to stabilize the situation in Libya, while EU officials on Wednesday intensified diplomatic efforts. A meeting in Istanbul between Turkey and Russia resulted in a call for a January 12th ceasefire. Now, Libya is governed by 2 authorities, one based in the east and one in Tripoli in the west, with each relying on different militias for support. And we end with Ethiopia, where Ethiopia's parliament passed legislation on Thursday aimed at curbing gun ownership after a surge in regional ethnic violence blamed on a proliferation of small arms in private hands. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government said last April that it had seized 21 machine guns, more than 33,000 handguns, 275 rifles, and 300,000 bullets in different parts of the Horn of Africa's country over the previous year. So that is the latest from Africa this morning. Let's just look at some of these stories and talk about it. And please feel free to contribute there as you usually do. So thank you so much. Makondit de Randit. Did I say it right? Makondit de Randit. You're watching from Australia. Thank you so much. And, our prayers still with Australia there, even as the fires, some of them have not been contained yet, and they continue to ravage some parts of Australia. So our prayers and sympathies goes to the families who have lost loved ones and those who have lost their properties and their livelihood, and everything has been erased down to the ground. So it's very, difficult and challenging times there in Australia. So our prayers are with you over there. And thank you so much for watching today. And I think it's a good evening there for you. So now we've looked at this story from Nigeria, and now advocates of press freedom in Nigeria are accusing the government of blacklisting the Punch. And normally I read a lot of stories from the Punch online. And apparently it is the leading national newspaper there in Nigeria. So usually over the New Year, President Muhammadu Buhari usually has a New Year message that is published. He pays, it's a paid advertisement from the government, from his office to all newspapers and media houses, to run his New Year's message or message to the country. But this time round, the Punch was not given that advertisement. So it is said because over December, the paper criticized President Muhammadu Buhari for allegedly defying the rule of law and illegally detaining citizens. But that is what Mr. Buhari has done. Can we go about, we've talked about this story of this activist, among other people who have been detained illegally. What is his name? Sowore? Who was arrested when he arrived from outside the country with a t-shirt saying we are all Biafrans. You remember? Hashtag we are all Biafrans. He was arrested in August 2nd. And the High Court made a ruling not a suggestion. The High Court in Nigeria made a ruling that the government should release Mr. Sowore with no conditions at all, because whatever that the prosecutors were trying to accuse him of, he was not found guilty of that. And even so, he was given bail, and he could continue with his case outside of the jail. But this person is still in jail since that ruling was made in August last year. So the Punch was just stating the obvious, something that even us down here, we know is happening in Nigeria. So President Muhammadu Buhari was not very happy with that. And, so this year he decided, I'll not give you that advertisement. And this is what we see even across Africa. I think it's very rampant. Well, we've seen it also other parts of the world. And I think Trump also is very intolerant of anybody who tries to criticize him or who tries to question the manner in which he operates or some decisions that he made. And but it has not been like that. Somewhere like America or other developed countries with the strong democracies, they allow the media to flourish. And when you have a media in a country that has been allowed to flourish and the media space, nobody's trying to infringe on it, then, the government has to be on the lookout, because they know the media will continue to play its role as the gatekeeper of the people. The media will continue to play its role in asking questions and updating and holding it to account, and letting the people know what's really happening. Okay, this is what you promised. This is what you said. So what are you doing? What have you been able to achieve? That is the role of the media, not just in Africa, but across the world. But a lot of our governments here in Africa, because a lot of these things they say they will do, they don't do. A lot of these things they promise to their citizens during their campaigns and whatnot, they don't do. So they get in there, and when you start to question, this is what you said you'll do, this is what your government is doing, or this is what is wrong, so can you give us information about this? They don't want to be questioned. This is not a monarchy in Africa. The only monarchy that is still remaining, and the people that are fighting for it, and they want a democracy, is Eswatini. Outside of that, a lot of African countries have systems that allow for divergent opinions and ideas and questioning and all of that. So in Nigeria, the press freedom there, it's becoming every day is shrinking. The space there for free press is shrinking by the day, and we have seen that the government is really trying to, manipulate the media here. So if you're not going to be dancing to the tune of the government of Muhammadu Buhari, then you cannot. You're not going to receive any government advertisement. You're going to be a target basically by the government. So now the advocates of press freedom there in Nigeria accused the government of blacklisting the Punch, this newspaper. And of course, the Punch editorial strongly condemned Buhari's alleged refusal to obey the rule of law and the detention of citizens who have been granted bail. And as I have mentioned there, Mr. Sowore is a very good example of what is happening there. After the High Court in Nigeria said he should be left, he should be released. You know, they did not find a case against him that should warrant him to continue staying in a police in jail. But the government has acted with impunity, and this person is in jail. Look at the case of Egypt, the Al Jazeera, journalist that was arrested over 1,000 days ago. He's been in jail and without trial, nothing. So these are some of the things that we have to continue speaking about in Africa, because if the press, the minute they silence the press, the minute they silence the civil society, then because it acts as a medium where people can really know what is really happening, what is the government doing, and the media has one very vital role that it plays as a gatekeeper. Brings that information, asks the question on behalf of the people. So we have to allow, whether we agree with who owns the media house or what is happening, whether we agree with the questions they ask us or not, but the press must be allowed the space to operate in Africa. The press must be allowed to do its job in Africa. And so with moves like this, and Nigeria being one of the leading, not democracies, that would be Ghana and other countries, not Nigeria, but economies in Africa, those are just one of the things that supports even a strong economy. So if you lack even the fundamentals, and somebody cannot criticize you for something that actually, if the Punch newspaper was saying something that was not right, that is different. But the Punch is pointing out something that is very obvious. That is the truth. What is so difficult about accepting, the truth? Or the truth is bitter sometimes. You want the truth, but not really. And I think a lot of our leadership here in the continent cannot stand the truth. Very few. So Mr. Buhari there was, of course, annoyed by the Punch, calling him out, and also the way he's acting with impunity and refusing to obey the same law. And when they come to office and they're taking that oath of office, protecting the Constitution normally comes first. At least what I saw, President Uhuru Kenyatta took that. That is what our presidents take here. And I'm sure even in Nigeria and across any country that is democratic and has a rule of law and has a constitution, they take an oath to protect the Constitution. So the blatant disrespect on the Constitution and the blatant attack on the Constitution sometimes even, it's worrying. And that is what brings us to where we are today in Africa. And yesterday here, Dr. Matsanga was having a very interesting conversation. Is Africa ready for elections, and does Africa need elections? And, he made it his case. And, owing to the many chaos that we see here, every electioneering period across so many African countries. But I don't think elections are the problem. It is the people. And we can't even say our institutions are the problem. Because we have proper institutions. We have very good constitutions. Majority of the constitutions in Africa, as I said yesterday, they're pretty good. It is the people that we have given the responsibility to sit in these offices are the problem. The people that we put on the Electoral Commission that are already compromised, that is the problem. Our blatant disregard of the rule of law, of the Constitution, but by our leaders, that is the problem. The acts of impunity that are perpetrated over and over and over again in this continent, that sometimes is quite disheartening. That is the problem. So we cannot run away from a bad behavior thinking that if we put now these other structures or a different route to find a solution, no, we will still not have solved that problem. Even if we looked for another way of governance, we'll still bring those bad habits over here and perhaps make it even worse. Because it requires checks and balances, and some level of discipline that we lack. So that is why we end up in chaos, we end up in problems, we end up killing each other. And that's why in South Africa, they will look at you and think you're another African, you've come here, you've started your business and whatnot, and now we don't want you, and we shall burn everything down, and we shall kill you, and we shall get you out of this country. Because they're so mad at their own system 25 years later after South Africa got its independence, from the white minority. But the leadership they've been having through the African National Congress has not been serving the people very well. The policies, the way, the corruption, the bad governance. The electoral system works. And I think it's a model that we should all borrow. But the people that they've been having there, that they've been electing, has put them to the place they are today. So blaming other people is just an escapist, argument. And so that is where we find ourselves. So Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, president there of Nigeria, I mean, our leaders must understand that when they go there, they don't go there. It's not a private venture. This is a public office, and everybody have a right to ask you questions. And because not many citizens can reach you, then that is what the media is there for. So perhaps you should just listen to understand, why are these people criticizing me? And whatever the Punch was criticizing, this is the truth. The Punch did not speak outside something that we don't already know. There are examples that could be given outside of even the illegal detention of Sowore. There are other people who have been detained illegally that we have to talk about. So if you cannot take that, then maybe you're not fit to be in office. You're not fit to be in office, President Muhammadu Buhari. And even as he is doing that, the people that should be in jail, Boko Haram, that are really causing havoc in the country, they seem to be running part of Nigeria very well. They seem to be in control. Those are the people that is a real threat to the country of Nigeria. And Mr. Buhari has refused to act, to take an impunitive measure that will make sure that Boko Haram is curtailed, Boko Haram is brought to book. Boko Haram does not thrive further than it has already. So somebody that is just wearing a T-shirt, #we're all Biafrans, and he said it in the sense that, you cannot be happy or you cannot be comfortable just from a humanity point of view and be okay when another part of Africa that's why we are so involved into what is happening in Africa, because I can't just sit here in Nairobi and say, you know what, no, it's fine. It's just a Biafran's problem. That is just an Amazonia problem. That is just a problem of South Sudanese. That is just a problem of the Sudanese. That is just a problem of the Egyptians over there now that, they have a very interesting president. No, this problem sometimes, when there's chaos in a country, a civil war breaks in a country, guess what? Other countries there get to shoulder in that problem in terms of refugee flowing there, in terms of, some of the insecurities, some of these bad people entering in other countries, like we've seen Boko Haram spread. So as Africans, you can't just sit and think, because it's happening in a particular country, then it has nothing to do with me. When an insecurity or an injustice is happening, like we were just looking at earlier about the Malawi, and the rapes that police officers are accused to have done during the protest following the elections in May last year, that the opposition protested, and the police officer, in their efforts of quelling or whatever, they went and they perpetrated this very heinous act. We have to speak. We have to call it as it is. I can't just sit here and say, it's just a Malawi problem. It's just the women there in Malawi. It's just the position there in Malawi. Because somebody somewhere in Africa is just sitting and thinking, next time this is what I want to do. So the more we speak about it, the more we call them out and realize a problem is a part in Africa. Is a problem everywhere. So we have to speak. We have a responsibility as citizens in this continent, whether you reside here or outside of the continent. But we have a duty. We have a duty to speak. It is a responsibility. We have to speak. And our leaders, if they cannot stand criticism, like the way I see President Buhari here cannot stand criticism, he has no business of leading one of the biggest, economies in Africa. He has no business being the president of Nigeria when Boko Haram is thriving. This is the thing he should be paying his full attention. These are the people who should be in jail in place of those activists who are only asking for what is rightfully theirs. Well, Boko Haram is just ravaging parts of Nigeria. I just fail to understand. So, of course, the newspaper, which is loved by a lot of Nigerians, was lauded by many citizens for its bold standing on the issue, and the government was strongly criticized, especially on Twitter, for meeting the punch in its New Year's advertorial. So when the people are with you, then people get to speak. All right, let me see this conversation that our viewers have been having here. Thomas, anti-imperialist, Sankara, Brito Eka. It is a good afternoon here, about 12 minutes past noon here. So thank you so much for watching. It could be a good morning where you're watching us, or a good evening. I've seen our friends from Australia tuning in and some other parts of the world. And Thomas, anti-imperialist Sankara, you're saying, to be honest, most countries in Africa are led by morons. Yes, buffoons. And you're saying freedom of speech and expression should be allowed, because if you're not criticized, you cannot know when you're not going wrong. And this is what I've been thinking. If I had because you have friends or a circle of people who are very close to you. Now, if you are very close to me, then what I would expect for you to tell me, or if you care, is the truth. Because the truth then will make me be a better person. But if you have people around you who are just singing your praises and just kissing your feet and all of that, those people don't mean well for you. They'll see you go straight to the fire and they will not stop you. So, in fact, when you're being criticized and people are pointing out something that really is quite obvious, then perhaps we should learn to listen, to understand, not to react. And I think that is the problem. When you understand, perhaps you can, where is this person coming from? Why is it they've seen it's important for them to be carrying out this story over and over? What is the point that I'm missing here? Do something and then look at it and see, okay, maybe they could be having a point, even if I don't agree with what maybe they're saying. But I could listen and just understand their point of view. So, Thomas, you're saying freedom of speech and expression should be allowed, because if you're not criticized, you can't know when you're not going wrong, and that is the very truth. But unfortunately, the leaders we have here and across the world, but especially in Africa, if you're not singing to their tune, oh my goodness, then you are a bad person. Criticism is healthy for a normal democracy. Divergence of opinions and ideas is very important for a healthy country. We cannot just be thinking all in the same way. And the media should be allowed its space to speak, especially on behalf of the people, if it's speaking on behalf of the people. And Thomas, you're still saying the so-called African intellectuals are actually spies working for CIA, Museveni, MIT, etc., to undermine African interests and promote so-called Western homosexual democracy. All right. Lazarus Papedino, you're saying you're following me live from Adamawa, Nigeria. All right, you're thinking I'm right. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lazarus, for watching. I think it's a good morning there still. I think we're an hour ahead, is it? Yeah. And so, Thomas, for your information, as long as foreign troops are in West Africa, French, Americans, British, Boko Haram will only increase. So to destroy Boko Haram, go to the source, all Western NGOs, all foreign troops, and kick them out. Oh, okay. That's a good suggestion. That, and you're responding to Max Manyika, and you're saying, Max Manyika, you're saying true that elections are not a problem, corrupt politicians are. Because now we shall close everything. If you keep attacking everything that is not working, okay, so this is not working, we shall close it down, this is not working. No, I think that it is the people that we put in these places that are not doing justice and are not living up to what we expect of them. So George Nwoke is saying Boko Haram are being employed in the military and government in Nigeria, as well as the herdsmen. They control the government and they only murder Christians. Yes, there has been some news about that. So thank you so much. Keep writing, and as you do that, it's always a pleasure to know where you're watching us from. So thank you so much. I'm going to take a very short break, and when I return, Dr. Matsanga will be here, and we'll be looking at the news in Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta's legacy, and also some other news that we read here. We'll go through with him together, and then towards the end of the show. So thank you so much. Good morning, Africa. We'll be right back.
Associated to 2022, elections have dominated the political arena in Kenya for years and months now. President Uhuru Kenyatta, in the recent past, has warned people not to engage in politics, but engage in nation building and development. As much as the president has given these warnings, the people have not heeded to the warnings. The objective of improving the lives of Kenyans is the most important thing that you need to have. Kenyans need to have their lives improved. Kenyans need development instead of campaigns. Kenyans don't eat campaigns. Kenyans need health care, good housing, industries, jobs for younger generation, and above all, infrastructure to be able to transport the goods that they manufacture and the crops that they grow for export. It is therefore very important for the people of Kenya to understand that with development lacking, the country will not prosper. President Uhuru Kenyatta has emphasized again that the only thing that can bring Kenya to a world-standing nation, a developing nation, is prosperity through unity of purpose. If you are not united, you cannot deliver to what other people, other nations went through and got united. Look at Germany, for example. It had a lot of anger after the Second World War. But today, Germany gives us the loans that we share, that we Google. You Google a company in Germany and you get what you want. We also global their money, hammer it, eat it every day. Some of us through corruption, some of us through extended kickbacks. But Germany had more anger than any other country in the world after the Second World War. Today, it's a healed country. The only message that Kenyans can take from here is a redemption strategy. The only thing that can heal this country is redemption, forgiveness, reconciliation, restitution, and reparations. And above all, truth-telling and accountability that will bring about the word redemption, which is healing. So for now, those who want to have a better Kenya tomorrow, begin the journey now. 1 inch by inch, move together with your president. The nation will be a great nation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Welcome back. In case you're joining, this is Good Morning Africa. Of course, the television station is Punchline Africa TV. And right now, we are live in conjunction with South Cameroon Broadcasting Corporation, all the way from the Ambazonia region there. So thank you so much wherever you're tuned in. We are glad that you could find time to be with us today. So the first about an hour and some few minutes, I was just going through the headlines in Kenya, the newspapers, and some in Africa. But right now I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. David Matsanga, and we shall go through the rest of the show together. Dr. Karibu.
Thank you very much, and thank you for standing in. And for the first half I was watching,
the Africa that we want is still the Africa. And it is still the same Africa that is punishing very many Africans. But here we are, we have to do something to change Africa. I think while you are on air with the Kenyan news, one of the most outspoken MP from Gatundu South was arrested.
The member of parliament for president?
Yes.
What has he done now? But he's always in trouble.
He beat up a journalist around royal media, a lady. You don't beat up ladies. You fight other men who are capable of standing. And he's in custody as we speak now.
He beat up a lady, a journalist. Yes. Why? I heard that he slapped somebody.
Yes, big slaps, not small.
What happened?
He doesn't know how to seduce them. He beats them up. So he's back in custody. On Friday, the police timed to arrest him on Friday.
Doctor, can you imagine a member of parliament in UK beating?
He would resign.
You know?
He would resign the seat, go back home.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is the type of life we have down here in Africa. Thank you very much. That is the life of our MPs, our leaders, and the drama of Dr. Miguna still continues. It hasn't changed the situation. The Kenya government says until it touches base with us. And the court orders, whether you issue them 1 million, I told you, they will not affect the whole place. He's holed up in Germany. What the lawyers should do probably is to get in a flight and go and convince him to go to together in the Kenya embassy in Berlin and start the paperwork. Then he can have his journey started all the way from wherever he is up to here as a Kenyan. But at the moment, he's a Canadian citizen who is holed up in Germany. The German authorities don't know there is a Kenyan there. They know a Canadian in Germany. That is 1. 2, the legacy of President Uhuru Kenyatta. Could Uhuru be backing Musalia? Maybe. We have seen headlines. The race against time. Which time? The Standard talks about Raila and says his father Jaramon came very close to ascending to the president. Jomo did it at 72 and Kibaki at 71. Raila just turned 75. Is his best dance yet to come? I think so. And Raila, it is not the age that we are looking for. It is the amount of wisdom that you have. The Queen is approaching 90 or over 90.
She's over 90.
She is still giving us wisdom, and Britain is stable. There is nothing wrong. The Commonwealth is stable. Some parts of Commonwealth are stable. So if he stands in the race, there's bound to be a good challenge for Mr. Ruto. Yes. We have learned now to pronounce His Excellency Dr. William Samoei Ruto.
It's very important.
Yes, very. You have to put that title.
He earned it. Because
in Kenya, people are demanding titles. So if you make a mistake, you can see the Chief Justice is no longer attending the functions of Kenya because his title was not recognized, his seat was not cleaned properly, and he refused to attend any Kenyan function. So in Kenya here, titles are very important. Doctor.
Dr. David Matanga, yes.
Yes, fine.
You've earned it.
Yes.
You worked hard, you studied.
Exactly.
So you earned it.
Yes, we have to say a sergeant remains a sergeant. A general remains a general.
You've earned it.
Yes.
Yes. So Dr. Matanga.
Yes.
Dr. William Ruto.
Yes, let's go. No, I don't know about. I did not study what Dr. Ruto studied.
Regardless, he studied.
He studied the botany and the flowers.
We need such people.
Yeah, flowers to do what? Environment is being destroyed in Cameroon.
It's very important in Cameroon.
Cameroon.
Whatever he studied,
There is degradation. Yes, the degradation. Yes, of environment. The study of botany.
Yes,
it's a very good subject.
It is.
In Uganda, we had what we call Entebbe Botanic Gardens. Botanic Gardens. I'm telling you, if your father does not take you to those botanic gardens, you cry tears, I want Fanta. Fanta, daddy.
Places. Have you gone to the Operator?
Where? Where is it? Is it here?
Near State House, just thereabout.
I don't know.
It's very nice. You should go there. You become very peaceful.
Is it the only place which has not been grabbed?
Perhaps, I don't know. But we have few public botanies around. It's very nice.
Do you, Miriam?
That's my kind of thing.
Miriam, is there botany here?
There is.
Flowers where you smell flowers.
Yes. You should start hanging out with me more. Perhaps you'll know these places.
Oh, an invite.
That was a joke, but
I will be starting to hang out, especially on weekends. Yes, while you are in one of those botanic.
Yeah, you sort of clear your mind. You clear your mind. You have you smell fresh flowers. It's beautiful.
But you
live there. Nice.
It looks like a Miriam only talks while here, and back at home she reads novels.
I don't read novels. I did them when I was 9-10 years old. I used to read very big novels when I was very young. Now I read books that are a bit, the content is much...
The Wretched Earth by Fenon Ifanzi.
I haven't read that, but I would like to have
it.
You
better, it is online.
Oh, it is
The Wretched of Earth.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Or The Wretched Earth by Fenon Ifanzi.
Okay, I'll look for
Our media social general manager can
look that for us.
Yeah.
But anyway, the rest against time, Mr. Raila Odinga, he's just celebrated his 75th birthday here. He's too old to be a leader, and age really is not a number. And you've said even in the politics of another country, which I will not get into it, and you start bringing the age, now you lose the point.
Yes. A personal age is for a personal issue. I don't think there is anything that you can comment about. Age is personal. The only thing that I don't want to change in these constitutions is the term limit. But age, somebody can be 80 and give us the presidency. A very good president. I've seen elders. The man of Malaysia, Mahathir. Dr. Mahathir came back and put back, cancelled all China money, returned it. The country is still lending us money. Malaysia. Yeah, it's more than 8 years. So thank you very much. That is exactly what we can do and we can say. A cop arrests his wife, later found dead in a police cell. Why are people killing people?
I know it's worrying, especially in relationships. It's very worrying, the manner in which these things happen. And I think it's a call for, it's sort of a call for help and a call for concern that, we should start paying more attention to some of these things. They have been very rampant, especially here in Kenya. A wife killing the husband, a husband killing the wife, killing the family, killing the children. It's quite rampant. I think this is something that requires a bit more of attention. So this is a cop who arrested his wife over stealing his phone, I don't know what else in the house, took her to the cell, the same cell that the same police station that he works, and then later on the wife was found dead in the cell. So they're saying, okay, You are a police officer here. Your wife was found dead here. You're the one who brought the wife here in the police cell. So what is really happening?
So what is happening right now as we speak, there is a conference in...
Is it Kisii?
In Kisii, yeah.
The BBI, I saw it later on yesterday in the evening.
And I can see very many people, including the Minister of Interior, Matiang, Honorable Raila Odinga.
Oh, he's already there.
Governor of Mombasa, the Governor of Kirinyaga, several governors of the one of Kisumu. Oh, there are many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there are many.
Yes. Even yesterday.
Almost all. I can see Ongwen.
Charles, yeah.
Charles Ongwen. Thank you very much. But the Deputy Governor of Kisumu says his life is in danger.
Why?
Because he is opposed to this conference.
To the BBI?
Yes.
You're opposed to the BBI and you're in Kisumu. Baba's staff.
No, he's in Kisii.
He's saying his life. But why is he in Kisii if he's not agreeing with the BBI?
It is in his county.
Oh, you're saying the Kisii, not
the
Kisumu.
Yes, Kisumu,
okay.
You can't. Now, the politics of 2022 seem to be shaping up. Mm-hmm. And the people were asking me this morning on KBC as to why people are jittery about BBI. Mm-hmm. Look, those who have a better idea of uniting this country can come up with that idea. But East or West, all Kenyans talk about they want unity.
They want unity. Bottom line.
Bottom line, the unity of purpose is very important.
And a more inclusive
yes.
Kenya. Mm-hmm.
And what else is here? MCAs throw Sonko. Had you gone through this? No.
Just a bit of it, but
yes,
I was waiting.
They throw Sonko under the bus. Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a big bus, Kenya bus or something.
No, the one of Hopper.
City Hopper.
Or KBS, Kenya Bus Company.
KBS, yeah.
KBS service.
It's a mighty big bus.
Yes.
So they were supposed to help him out from... but this is something, if he was accused of, this is something that I saw even yesterday on the newspaper's doctor here. Jubilee Party, the Secretary General said this is not something that we are going to get involved as a party. He was accused as an individual, as a leader of Nairobi County. So let him just go through the rule of law. And then if the court finds him to be innocent, then that's it. If the court finds him to be guilty, then let him just take his own cross. This thing of now you do a mistake and now everybody has to come in and rescue you has to stop. If you engage in matters, especially as corruption, then you must be prepared to take your own cross. Of course, the case is in the court right now, and he's facing 38 counts of corruption and other related charges. So let him just go through the whole law.
The way I see the Kenya politics going is that by March there will be two groups.
By March this year?
Yes.
What do you mean there will be two groups? They are already two.
No, but there will be two distinct groups.
They'll come out strongly.
Yes. No, they go their ways.
Mm-hmm. Two groups in...
Because one group is forming itself. You can see it.
Yes. A new party was formed.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, a few days ago, yes.
There will be, because I can see there is no goodwill already in Western. The Washali group
I saw
are saying, sorry, we are not a party to it.
A party to the BBI?
Yes. Mm-hmm. To that meeting in Bohungu. Yes. You know, the biggest problem with my Luya community where I come from, I'm the Luya from their greater kingdom across where they came from before they came down. Mm-hmm. Apart from Mumia, who disobeyed Masaba, and we told him to go his way. Mm-hmm. The Washali, but we are still the same people. And the Masai also came through us. You know, see that the Masai used to own the entire that from Kagamega up, down, there, they go.
Tiriki area down to Tanzania. If you come back to our country, in Uganda, you will find Maasai, which is Maasai. We have names like Maasai, Kakai. Here you have Kaikai. Those, the family tree of the movement of the people of East Africa is in my head. But we Luya people have a problem. We never unite, we shall never unite, cannot unite, will not unite.
And what is the problem? Why is that so?
Everybody is akili mingi.
Okay.
We've divided ourselves into clans.
So it's clanism.
Yes, it's petty clanism. Bukusu don't look at Maragori. Maragori don't look at Bukusu. Tachoni don't look at it. So we have a problem here. And that's why these meetings are beginning to split the country. That's why I predict is by March, there will be two distinct groups or more.
But here's my point, Doctor. If for those who feel they're not supporting the BBI, what is the big deal of just stay away? Don't be in a process which you don't believe in.
Yeah, but they want to be seen. They want to sway people.
We should borrow a leaf from Tanzania. If you feel like you don't support something, then you stay away from it. Don't involve yourself in something that you don't feel you don't support. That is where I don't understand with these politicians. If you don't like the process, you don't like the whole thing, go on with your life and deal with other things, advance other causes that you believe in. Leave this alone. Why? You don't want it, but you still want to be involved. I just don't understand. And just creating chaos. And because bottom line, should it come to us going to a referendum, I said here earlier, then that will be up to us Kenyans to decide, to go and make that vote. So still, I think politicians are just... I don't understand. You don't support it, but you still want to be there and talk about it. What is the point?
Hey, it is a sad situation, very sad, that at this hour, Miriam, we still have, people are still haggling. But there is something that I wanted to read for my people. And for those who want to care or who care. For those who care, can care. But I want to read. Hey, I want to read something. Oh yes. This is it. I want to read something. It is the Friday legacy trend. Fellow viewers or comrades, be aware of not fighting too many wars at the same time, because you will not know the strength of your worst enemy. If you have not paid dowry, you should not insult the beauty of the wife you want to marry. It is prudish and sardonic to insult the parents of your wife to be before you pay dowry, because they could hike it or reject it. The worst form of ignorance is to fight your boss when he will sign your reference. Those with ears hear. Never underestimate the tears of a volunteer, because they come from the heart and not from the head. With that note, the legacy closes.
We close the show?
No, the legacy closes, not the show.
Okay.
The legacy team, that's the Friday African proverb. If you have ears, hear. One, don't insult the parents of the wife to be before you pay dowry. They could reject it or hike it. Then you get your beauty, you see it in the glass, but you don't touch. 2, don't start insulting the same beauty when you have not even moved an inch to make sure that she's yours. 3, don't ever insult your boss because he will give you the reference for the next job. 4, the tears of a volunteer come from the heart, but not from the head. The tears that come from the head are contractual.
Contractual tears.
Tears, yes.
Okay.
The lawyer, Hamima, contracts. He's crying, my client is at the airport in Berlin. But we who love humanity and who don't want human rights trampled on, feel from the heart that if Miguna had crossed over and gone to Kenyan embassy in Berlin with people, whether 100, they wait for him outside, in case he fears Khashoggi style, he would sign those documents and sleep in one of the hotels in Paris, in one of those countries. The passport will come within a week. And he will travel very peacefully to Kenya. He can do what he wants to do. That's what the president has said. There is nothing that the president has not said. The president said he can come. It doesn't need, you need to, present yourself to the Kenyan officials, whether in the immigration department in Berlin, there is an immigration officer who will take your biometric, who will take your fingers, your forms, your signatures, send them to Nairobi by diplomatic. You will get the passport. Forget about being a Canadian citizen. Full stop. And hammer home with the flight. In fact, when you go to present the Kenyan passport, there is no airline which will refuse to carry you because they have just given you a passport. Don't you see the logic? Are we not seeing the logic? My dear brother, do you see the logic? You have children. Your children should not see you doing this. You are not Okonko. Hello. I feel so sad. I am your friend. I am your friend. I'm not a Kenyan, but I'm appealing to you. Look at this. Take a step across to the embassy and do what they want. Then we see if there is a mistake that they don't give you the passport. But don't rely on activism of lawyers who have been looking for a way to penalize the government. At the end of the day, you are the one suffering. It is not them. They are taking money from you. You are suffering, and your children, your friends like us, are seeing you around there.
All right, so I am hoping that Miguna, wherever he is...
So that is the legacy trend, which also goes to tell some people that if you are yearning for presidency, then you insult the incumbent president. How will he endorse you? I rest my case. Over to you, Miriam.
All right, so there are some stories, Doctor. I looked here before you arrived. So the governing ABC party in Lesotho has asked the Prime Minister Thomas Tambane to resign over allegations that he was involved in the murder of his estranged wife 2 years ago. So this is what happened. The wife is called Lipolelo Tambane, and she was shot dead while traveling home with a friend days before her husband was sworn in. And there seems they're having a problem.
Oh.
Lesotho's Prime Minister. Apparently, he is the one who participated
Was
in the
indeed
allegations.
the one who was here?
No, Lesotho's Prime Minister, he was here.
Yeah, the Lesotho Prime Minister. Isn't it the Prime Minister of Lesotho?
So killed the wife days before he was sworn in as the Prime Minister.
The short guy whom the State House had to do a chair for him to climb in the. Yes, that's the.
They had to do that.
Yeah, you didn't see at the State House. That's the Prime Minister of Lesotho.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was here. At least I saw him in Kempiski.
Thomas.
Yes.
Tambane.
Yes, I saw him in Kempiski, and I spoke to the foreign minister there.
So he's being accused of killing the wife days before he was sworn in as the Prime Minister, because they were not having a very good marriage before then. So it is said that according to the investigations, he didn't want her to be the Madam Prime Minister.
So, what is it? What have they done to him? Have
So
they
now
arrested
they're
him?
telling him to step down.
Only stepping down?
Maybe now they can go and charge him, because as a Prime Minister, perhaps he cannot be charged while he's.
He was here. Yes, he was here last year. Mm-hmm. Last year he was here. He spent about 4 days, 3 to 4 days in Kempiski. Yes, the short gentleman who the State House used another chair to stand on in order to go to this Prado.
Why you keep saying the way he was short and he used to...
Emmanuel Rope is asking, how did the Kenyan Miguna lose his Kenyan passport? It expired while it was with the court, so it is not useful at all. I think most people are not understanding this issue. Mr. Miguna is in Germany and I repeat, as a Canadian citizen. He's not in Germany as a Kenyan. Until he assembles himself or shows himself to an immigration office of the Republic of Kenya, either in the embassy or at JKIA, the issue remains unresolved as we go over one whole week. He has not moved.
Oh, he's still in Germany?
Yes, he has not moved. So the lawyers should use this weekend to avail themselves by Sunday, and then Monday morning they can go to the embassy and obtain the passport. Everybody now knows it can be done express. The man will be given the passport, begin the journey, no airline will refuse taking your money. Then come and sort the problem with the Kenya government, sort the problem with people whom you have insulted, and you sort up through court. The law is here. Your rights to slander, their rights to speak, not rights to slander. There are two things. Democracy has a right to speak, but not right to slander people. So he will deal with the other people who are here. He's my friend, and that's the only advice. We cannot, ignore the fact that there is one African who is suffering at an airport somewhere. That's why we are talking about it, to give advice, solutions. The lawyers of Miguna should waste no any more time going to the courts in Kenya, because the courts in Kenya don't preside over jurisdiction in Germany. Full stop. May God help you, Dr. M.M. We are your friends. You have heard my message. I said it, I did not hide. And I believe that you are one of the few people who can make things work
yourself. Thank you.
All right, we still have some 10 minutes to cover. All right, but we can have a clip play from the African School of Thought. All right, to cover that, because the rest had talked about it earlier.
Ask any question you are not sure of.
No, I think we're good. I was just waiting for you so that we're able to cover the Kenyan news.
The legacy is done.
Yes, yes. And,
Don't insult the parents of your wife to be before you pay dowry. Don't insult your boss because he will give you reference for the next job. Don't insult the wife before you see her. She's yours, and pay before you pay dowry. And don't. And remember, the tears of a volunteer, they don't come from the head glands, they come from the heart glands. So you can know, place yourself, what did you want to do for Africa? If you are aspiring to become the president of any country in Africa, respect the current president who is your boss, because you'll need that endorsement. I am talking to those who have ears down and up. May God help you.
All right, ears down and up. Interesting. So we see you here on Sunday for another edition of Africa Showdown.
Yes, and I look forward to going to see roses in the botanic gardens.
Quite, they're here. You go. You come there.
Where?
With a different perspective. They're around here in Nairobi.
No, I'm not. Why should I go to flowers alone? Those botanic gardens, people walk with people.
We were talking about botanic, so it's just botanic.
Yes.
It's just a zen time. You live there very
What
zen.
is Zen time? The
like
scent.
peace, zen. You zened out.
Yes.
Full and just calm and very clear perspective.
Then come back angry.
You don't.
The anger you can carry.
Then
off.
that's when you need anger management. Why are you going to a botanic ground and then come out there still angry? Now that is a problem I can't help. Now we have to get a therapist. We'll see you on Sunday for Africa.
Thank you very much. I came in today. I am here and I've finished my job. I want to wish all of you the happiest of happiness that always walks around the world of Africa. The people of Africa then, because Miriam wants me to finish the 7 minutes.
No, we finished. Now it's 5.
The people of Africa, remember, we have not reached a stage where we can call ourselves Chinese. Because the Chinese have a contract. Socially, the leadership in China are 2 billion people, are governed by 7 people. And you can see how Chinese are organized. They are very organized. They even lend us money. They even bail America out when it is running out of money, because they don't hold elections. And it has helped them. I hope somewhere, some president in Africa one day will gather all countrymen and the country ladies and tell them, now amongst you, these are 5 people, just choose one without holding elections. And let's see whether he is good or not, whether he's a wizard, a witchcraft man, a medicine man, a road runner, night runner. We reject him. We need to go back to politics of merit. Merit. Don't choose because money has been given to you. Don't choose because he's your brother. Choose merit. Can that person deliver a country
into safety and safe hands. That is the essence of democracy. Plato Republic never said, there is nowhere where Aristotle, where Plato, where Socrates, where Adam Smith, where Montego, where Karl Marx told you we should hold elections in 5 years, every 5 years. I haven't seen it. The city of Athens had shoe cobblers, shoe shiners. They sat down amongst the shoe shiners and they created what is the monster for Africa today. Democracy. And every time everybody in Africa cries democracy, there are human rights abuses. Watch this continent. Everywhere there's a disappearance of a wife. You kill your wife to ascend to power. This is the truth of Africa. You divorce your wife in order to ascend to power because of the word of 5-year term elections. Who bewitched us in Africa? Who destroyed us in Africa? Who told us that every 5 years you should change government? Do we have a social contract on African continent which says you'll eat one meal, like a Chinese eat one meal? Chinese were the poorest people 30 years ago. Today, the Chinese lend us money. Are we not ashamed? Especially we in Uganda. The Chinese came to work in a rice scheme, the only African rice scheme, and the Transam Railway that runs from Dar es Salaam to Ndola in Zambia to look for copper and take it out to China. Today, China is the lender of us Africans. We wear suits and run, go on the city to eat noodles, call the names, hello, yes, hello. Because they have a social contract. They have no, they don't renegade on corruption. They kill you. They kill you if you are corrupt. That is the China we have. It has instilled the discipline, and that discipline has paid. I want to thank you very much, all of you. I leave you with those words. Does Africa need elections? Do you need elections? Do you think you can take the second position if you have lost and allow the person who won to go on and build a nation? The answer is no. Africa is not yet prepared for elections. Thank you very much. May God hold your hands until we meet on Sunday at 2 p.m. East African Standard Time. You can adjust your watches to listen to our voices with my beloved co-anchor. Thank you.
All right, we see you on Sunday.